What is up, guys? Welcome back to this channel. Today, we're ranking all the episodes of What If. I'm really excited for this. As I mentioned in my review, go check that out. I absolutely loved the show, really enjoyed all of it, and cannot wait to dive in to ranking these episodes from the worst to the best. Not much else to say, but we can get right into it.
And ponder the question, what if?
So, coming in at number 9, these bottom two were kind of tied, but I'm going to go with episode 7, What If Thor was an only child. The reason why this one's, I think, lower than number 6, I do think I kind of enjoy this one a little more, but I just think that what they could have done with the whole idea of Thor being an only child, they could have done so much, because Thor's like a well over 1,000 years old. There could be like a trickle down in history as things go on. And that would have been really interesting to explore. But instead, you have Thor throwing a party on Earth with Captain Marvel being the party pooper. And the whole teenage party idea of the mom come rushing home and the person has to clean up. It's just like a party episode. So I wish they could have done so much more, especially with the idea. I love the idea. Of all the what if scenarios, this would definitely be near the probably of all of them, to be honest. I think this is probably the one I feel like, if you read them out to me before the show came out, I think this would have been near the top of which ones I'd want. Like, I think the Peggy Carter one would probably been number 1, just because I was just really excited for that episode, because I knew that was going to happen. And as a whole, I really enjoy this. I do really enjoy this episode, but as an episode of the show and what they could have done, it's just kind of disappointing.
And ponder the question, what if?
Coming at number 8, this one was really close, but the reason why I put this one higher, just because it kind of executed its scenario a bit better, and that's episode 6, What If Killmonger Saved Tony Stark. In the trailers, this one looked awesome, I would say, and I was so excited, and I was kind of disappointed, and when I watched it, I was kind of disappointed. The beginning of the episode is fantastic, and then once he kills Tony Stark, once he kills Tony Stark, you realize it's just kind of, this episode's just really predictable as you see what's going to happen, and then he's going to go to Wakanda. It's just too predictable for me to enjoy a lot, and that's my problem with it, especially on rewatch. I think I enjoyed it less on rewatch. So a lot of the episodes I think I enjoyed even more on rewatch. Most of them kind of stayed the same, I would say, but there's not really any, except maybe one episode that I'd say I enjoyed less on rewatch. But there's 2 I'd say I enjoyed less on rewatch. This is one of them. Don't enjoy this one as much. It's still kind of cool. I think the War Rhinos are represented a lot better in this this episode than they ever were in Black Panther. So that's kind of cool. And seeing Chadwick Boseman for the second of 3 times in the show is really cool. Michael B. Jordan, I think, is just fantastic casting as Eric Killmonger. He still does a great job here. And I, as a whole, really enjoyed this episode. I really enjoy it, but I'm still kind of mixed on it.
And ponder the question, what if?
Coming in at number 7, we have episode 1, What If Captain Carter Was the First Avenger. The reason why I think this one's lower than my number 7, or number 6, is because I think as a whole, this episode just rushed through its story. It feels like it was squishing a 2-hour movie into 35 minutes. So it doesn't quite work there. And I think as a whole, it's really just like an hour and a half or an hour and 15 minutes, because they kind of skipped the whole origin story part of Steve Rogers, because they didn't really need to do that. So as a whole, really enjoyed this episode. And I thought this one was actually a nice way to start out the show. And one thing I really enjoyed about it is that some of the differences, like the whole thing with the Red Skull's plan, summoning this octopus sort of thing to destroy the world or even worlds. So, I really enjoy. And that's much different from what Red Skull was trying to do back in Captain America: The First Avenger. I like seeing all those anomalies throughout this episode, and as the first episode, it really worked, and I really enjoyed it.
And ponder the question, what if?
Number 6, we have episode 3. What if all the Avengers were dead? We're dead, I guess. I don't know if that's what it's called. But I really enjoyed this episode. This was such a fun one to watch. This one wasn't as good to rewatch as you knew the mystery. And I think this is probably the best one in first watch of any of the earlier episodes. And I just really enjoyed this episode. Like, I just found the idea of having each adventure kind of trickle off into their death. Like, as the way you kind of see throughout the movies like Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk, and Thor, it connects all three of those into a pretty nice way, and it doesn't feel convoluted or contrived at all. So it's a really fun mystery. But on second watch, as you know, the mystery, it kind of takes away from it a little bit. And this is the other one I think I enjoyed a little less on rewatch. But still, really fun episode. Some great stuff. Like, I think the idea of doing Hank Pym as the villain, I thought that was great. I was not seeing that coming until really he went to San Francisco and Hope Van Dyne's great. They changed up the thing that this one's a bit different than most of the other episodes where the anomaly starts at the beginning, but this one the anomaly kind of plays out like this instead of just starts here and then just plays out. It does the opposite, where it plays out and then reveals the anomaly of what happened, but it's kind of both. So it's really interesting, really fun episode. It's not as good to rewatch, and this is not one I would really come back to as easily, but I really enjoyed it.
And ponder the question, what if?
Coming in at number 5, we have episode 2, What If T'Challa Was Star-Lord. This is where we start to get into the fantastic episodes. Really love this one. As a whole, this is probably I think my favorite of the earlier episodes. At least the first 3 for sure. I don't know about episode 4. That'll be, I don't know where it's going to be placed. I mean, we haven't gotten there yet. Anyway, really enjoyed this episode. It kind of played off of our expectations. I was expecting this to be more of a Guardians of the Galaxy sort of spin-off kind of way, but it really wasn't that. I think the way it played off of our expectations is really interesting, and I just really enjoyed all of that. That was all fantastic. I had 2 problems with this episode. First one, the whole plant thing. I just don't really like that much. Second, the way that they kind of use the what's it called? The children of Thanos. It doesn't quite make sense that they're kind of henchmen to the Collector. So it's just kind of weird, and it doesn't quite work. And that's my one problem with this episode. Other than that, really enjoyed it. I love seeing the Ravengers more as good guys. It's more like a Robin Hood and the Prince of Thieves type of things. My favorite anomaly as a whole, and wasn't even the whole T'Challa as Star-Lord, was the fact that in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, you see T'Challa, you see Peter Quill say, Star-Lord, man, and then that movie reveals that he's not well known. But in this movie, in this episode, it's the opposite of that. And I really find that really fun, especially the way you kind of changed Thanos. I thought that was really interesting. And as a whole, seeing the Collector like this is pretty interesting. I don't know if Benicio del Toro returned for it. I'm not 100% sure about that. But all of that was really fun, and I thought this was a great episode.
And ponder the question, what if?
Coming in number 4 was the zombie episode. I thought this was probably the one I was really the most excited for. Once I heard about this episode, this is definitely the one I was the most excited for. Some great shots, some great action in there, some great zombie horror stuff. My only problem with it, I feel like it didn't quite play into the zombie genre as much as I feel like I was kind of expecting it to. And on second watch, I think this one was even better than on first watch. On first watch, I had some problems with it, especially with the way it ended. But I think on second watch, it made a lot more sense as a whole. And I really enjoyed this episode. Don't really have many problems with it. And I thought this was just a fun episode. Really nice. A bit more. This one is also pretty dark, kind of keeping on the darker tone of the last episode. Really, I think episodes 3 through 6, I'd say, were pretty dark. And episode 7 was a bit lighter. And I found that kind of interesting. And some of the characters, like, my favorite character in this episode is definitely, was definitely Peter Parker. I thought he was really fun. I don't know if that was Tom Holland. I don't think it was. Some other characters like Vision, seeing Zombie Wanda was really interesting, especially with their throwdown with Ultron in the last episode. I thought that was really cool. In the way this episode, I just think it's kind of ties together between two movies, Ant-Man and the Wasp and Avengers Infinity War. I was kind of weird. I was kind of on how they were gonna set up a zombie plot line. And then as I watched it, I realized how it actually, this actually really worked. Like, the idea of having Janet sort of, bring back like a zombie virus thing, whatever you want to call it, back to Earth, I guess, was really interesting, and I absolutely love that. And because of that, this episode is at number 4.
And ponder the question, what if?
Taking out number 3, the top 3, we have the finale. Really enjoyed this episode. Great way to end the season. Very epic. My favorite parts about this episode were definitely seeing the overpowered Ultron back again in this episode, especially on watching this one a week after the Ultron episode. Really loved that. Other things I really loved about this episode, I absolutely loved seeing evil Doctor Strange, if you want to put it that way. My one problem with this episode is, what is Gamora doing there? I'm a little confused on that. I don't know what universe that came from, because let's see. Definitely not the first. It could have been the first episode, but I don't think it was. Definitely wasn't the second episode. Actually, it could have been the second episode. It definitely was not the third episode. Definitely was not the fourth episode, no way. Definitely not the fifth episode. 6, 7, 8. Yeah, definitely not 6. It could have been 7. It's not 8 either. Because then, or maybe it could have. No, it wasn't 8, because they revealed that Tony Stark is killed. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. That's my one problem with this episode. And also, what they do with Killmonger was kind of weird. Why would they put him on the team of when you know he's probably going to betray them? It doesn't make a lot of sense. That's my one other problem, especially the way the last episode kind of ended. It was just kind of, last episode meaning episode 6 kind of ended. It's just kind of weird and doesn't quite sit right. So, as a whole, yeah, I guess that's all I'm going to say.
And ponder the question, what if?
Coming in at number 2, we have episode 8, What If Ultron Won? This is a great episode. I thought, as a pretty big Marvel fan, it just brought all the stuff you would have loved for the story. Seeing Black Widow and Hawkeye as the only survivors is pretty interesting. Hawkeye being kind of the opposite of how he was in Endgame, and he just won. And I kind of liked how they kind of switched that up, where Hawkeye's the one that makes the sacrifice instead of Natasha. I thought that was really interesting. And they both have lost everybody, so they're the only 2 people on Earth left, I think. And I thought the way that episode 8 and 9 as like a 2-parter really worked for me. And I just really enjoyed that. And I just really enjoyed this episode. This was just such a fun episode. And if any of them, this or episode 2 had the best ending. Like, I thought a lot of the endings for a lot of these episodes, really, from episodes 1 through 5, I think the endings really worked. Then they started kind of getting, especially episode 6 didn't have a good ending. Episode 7 and on, I'd say they did. And as a whole, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a great second to last episode. And the way it set up the finale was really good. And Ultron being like the main threat for the multiverse was really interesting. And the way, although I don't know if it makes sense how the Mind Stone can just cut someone in half. I don't know. I mean, it's a What If series, so who cares?
And ponder the question, what if?
Coming in number 1, we have episode 4, What If Doctor Strange Lost His Heart? If I'm going to be honest, heart instead of his hands. This was definitely my favorite episode on rewatch by far. On first watch, I had some minor problems with it. Like, it didn't quite sit right with me. But then on second watch, I realized how good it actually was. Like, on first watch, I definitely would have said the Ultron episode. Both the finale and the Ultron episode were better. And possibly the zombie episode. I don't know. But as a whole, I really enjoyed this episode. I love all the music and all the tragic stuff that's happening. And also, the best part about this episode is you kind of see like what drives Doctor Strange, what drives him to do all of this stuff and be the man who he is, I guess. And it really shows that. And I thought that was a great thing that this episode did. And as a whole, this is definitely probably my favorite episode I've rewatched by a decent amount. So I love both of these episodes. But coming in number one, we have episode 4. My one problem with it, I wish in the Doctor Strange fight at the end of the episode between the two Doctor Stranges, I wish we got more of that mind-bending visuals that we got in the movie Doctor Strange. So I find it kind of weird that we didn't have that. Although I don't know if they both got from the power from the dark dimension, so I don't know if it made any sense. But whatever. As a whole, really enjoyed this episode. Absolutely fantastic, and definitely my favorite episode of MCU Disney Plus. I don't think it's as good as the top 4 episodes of Mandalorian. Top 3. Yeah, top 4. Top 4. Officially decided. And that comes in at number 1. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Adios. This is a really fun video to make, by the way.